LJ, Lovell J. Morris, and Virginia Morris on their home, their lovely home in Signal Mountain. This is the dining area. Virginia has all these lovely dishes she uses. And she has this beautiful arrangements at the bottom of the mirror. And this precious bed. It's just fabulous. So much fun. They have a settee and so forth. I have all my things in there. The old part of the house is the first living room. That was in the original house that they had a model built in Izmir, Turkey, of how they were going to enlarge it. A prayer rug from Turkey going up to their bedroom. And an addition they have down here where they comfortably sit. On the other side, I think we might go up to the patio, to the porch, and have a little chat. Jay Morris here, Colonel Morris. We'll go up on the porch and talk about your experiences. Sitting on beauty, and she's bringing the cushions, so everything looks just gorgeous out here on this fabulous porch. Doesn't seem like a fancy enough name to call this. It's about 40 by 14, and then there's an extension down there. About how big is the little extension, LJ?
Well, that's about 10 feet wide by 14 feet
10
wide.
by 14 over there. They have another table down there. They have another table down there. How many will it seat?
Well, we could see
Virginia?
28.
28 to seat 28 out here. I'm going to sit here and look at these beautiful trees. And what kind of little creatures are there? Katydids or grasshoppers, or what is it that we hear down there? What are the little creatures?
The what?
Those creatures that are making the noise.
Oh.
In rhythm. They make the rhythmic sounds.
How do you pronounce it?
Katydids.
Cicadas or?
I don't
I call
know.
them katydids.
I just hear the sounds. She brought these lovely flowers up here. She keeps them in the refrigerator so they keep beautiful until she wants to show the beauty of these for us. And they are gorgeous. And she's a lady of beauty too. That's just fine, Virginia. Let me get comfortable and I'll have you say whatever we're going to say. Just relax and be yourself. And just tell us about how you happened to be in dependent schools. What happened to you? First you went over as a Red Cross person just after the war.
But I went over in 1945, in the summer of 45, to Europe, and was assigned first to Brussels, Belgium, and worked outside of the Reppel Depot where everybody's waiting to go home. And then I worked there for several months, and then moved to the
Red Cross.
Red Cross. Moved to a club downtown where people came on leave and worked there. And then in the summer of 46, I went back to the States, taught school in Martinburg, North Carolina, and applied for overseas teaching, but it was too late in the season, and the people for that year had already been hired. So then I decided to change schools and move to Chapel Hill, and luckily the next year the overseas people who were interviewing came to Chapel Hill to interview, and so I interviewed, asking to return to Europe, but they suggested Japan would be better. So I did get that appointment to Japan and was assigned to Kokura, which is the southern island of Kyushu, and was assigned, I thought I would be teaching 6th grade, but I was really assigned to the 3rd grade. It was a kind of a small school because the war was at its worst in Korea, and a lot of families came home as a result of that, and not any families were sent over during that year. But it was a very, very interesting experience, and the children were very nice. Small class. And
How many is a small class? About how many did you have?
18.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was in Japan that I met my future husband. First day I was there.
This is Colonel Lovell Jason Morris. And so now we'll go back to Virginia.
Well, the Korean War was so bad that there weren't very many officers who were left in town, and everybody was there. All the people were there, quite busy. Then they started using it as a relief center for people who were coming back from Korea for a few weeks, and everybody there was very busy.
Now you're in Japan.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And food lines were very scarce at the first of the season that we were there.
Food lines, what do you mean by that?
There wasn't very much food available because
I
every
see.
possible amount of food that they could get, they had to send to Korea.
Mm.
And they baked the bread at that time, isn't that right?
Yeah.
They baked all the bread for the army over in Korea in
It was baked in our bakery in
It was
Kokura.
so they
And
they were baking day and night. I mean, it was going on all the
we
time.
sent the bread to Korea to support the Korean troops.
So the mainstay of the food that first week was like cucumbers and spaghetti. I mean, macaroni, things like that. But it was very interesting. And now what you want me to talk about?
Well, what did you do next?
Well, we just started this school, and we stayed in there, and at Thanksgiving we went up to tell me where we went. Kyoto. Went to Kyoto, and Kyoto is the garden spot of Japan.
I didn't know.
It was really wonderful. We stayed in a Lead hotel there, and some of the teachers lent us their rooms. So they went down south and used our rooms, and we used their rooms. And it was in the fall of the year, and the maple trees were wonderful. And we went up Mount Hion and took the cable car up, and just had a marvelous journey. Then we came back, and Christmas time we went to Tokyo, and really took the train up and spent the night in Kyoto, and then went up and spent most of Christmas morning trying to find somebody that we were supposed to meet, but finally we gave up on that and went on and had our day. And we went to see, went to the Japanese theater and saw some kabuki and various, I think we saw Madame Butterfly there too. And
Had you married LJ yet?
mm-mm.
Had you married LJ
Oh,
yet?
we didn't get married till we came back to the States, and
Oh.
I came back, and then it was New Year's Eve, and he did take me to the New Year's Eve events at the club, and we had a nice time, and then we just saw each other all the time, and but nothing was said about getting married, except he did say when I left, he said maybe I'd like to go by and see his family. And so I said, well, not to go by, but I could go back, when I got home. So that did. I came back to visit him, and we had a wonderful time. His aunt was here from Georgia. We saw the town and everything, and then I went back and corresponded a lot. I was teaching in Charlotte that year, and went home for Christmas, and I thought, well, he didn't write very many letters, and I thought, well, if I don't really have an interesting letter from him at Christmas time, I'm just going to drop the letters, forget about it. But his mother wrote me about, sounding like he might be thinking about getting married. I didn't know exactly what he was, and so then I was home for Christmas, and then I went back to Charlotte, and then when I got my things off the table, there was a cablegram which said, request we spend all future Christmases together.
Oh.
So-
Well, that's romantic.
So then I had a lot of writing and catching up to do, and so then I had said yes, and so started looking at China and everything, and I know I would have been terrified if I had known what an interest he had in that type of thing, because I didn't know, and I just picked out things that I liked and sent them to him, and sometimes he liked them and sometimes he didn't. So the wedding invitation, we had to wait till he got to the United States. So when he was in California, he called us saying we had arranged for the wedding date to be the 15th of June, which was going to be in a few weeks.
And what year was that?
That was in 1952. So we were married in June of 52. And the day that school ended, he got to North Carolina, and he came over to Charlotte and picked me up and took me back to Kings Mountain. Visited a few days, and then came back to Tennessee, and then everybody came to the wedding. It was our Sunday wedding, and it was a formal type wedding, but we didn't have a reception, which was a surprise to everybody but me, I guess. Now, what else do you want to know?
Well, I want to know when you went back to Japan and.
Oh, we didn't go back to Japan.
Oh, you were
we
living.
went to Texas.
You were living in this house in Japan that was very special. Maybe LJ could tell us about the house that you lived in and your quarters in Japan. Okay? Right, LJ?
There was a wealthy financier in Japan, a wealthy manufacturer, I guess, and he had an art, it was Art Nouveau or Art Deco house, Art Nouveau, I guess, house. It was a sort of the late Victorian period, and a massive mansion, and which had a Japanese wing, and the Army had requisitioned this house for the duration of the occupation, and they used the house as a quarters for the Army officers. At first it was the senior Army officers on post, and then when the teachers came over, they used the Japanese wing for the teachers. And when the Korean War broke out, they wanted to keep the house full, so they let some of the senior officers and junior officers live there. And so we all lived in this fine mansion. We had everybody, including the teachers and the officers, had breakfast and dinner in the dining room of the house, and for lunch we had lunch wherever we wanted to eat. And after dinner, they would all gather around the fireplace in the living room and chat, sometimes sing songs and tell tales, you know. And it was a real convenient, congenial environment. Jenny and I used to shop together and so forth. Later on, 1996, I guess it was, wasn't it? 1994. Architectural Digest came out with an article on this house that we had lived in.
Not the right day.
Well, I forgot the date.
September.
And so I wrote the Architectural Digest magazine and told them stories that I remembered about the living in this house in Kyushu. And they sent back a large collection of papers from a book that they had used to back up their story, which I thought was really interesting.
And Virginia was living in the Japanese section.
She was living in the Japanese quarters, and I was living in the downstairs of the mansion, just off the grand living room.
Mm-hmm. And Virginia came over to have lunch in your area. And
she would have breakfast and dinner there.
Okay. Over
And
there.
of course, all of us went to the officers club together and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was the
A
teachers.
good way to get acquainted.
The teachers were members of the officers club. Excuse me?
It was a good way to get acquainted.
Oh yes.
Excellent. You went with your husband and you ended up overseas in France and other places. Tell us about that.
Well, we were married and lived in Texas for 3 years, and then from Texas we went to France and we were assigned to, we were at La Rochelle first. Then we were working with quartermaster, and we rented a little cottage on the beach at Châtillon, and we didn't have any heat, so we had to use kerosene heaters. And I spent most of my time going to pick up kerosene at the Army filling station. And we had a bus that I could travel on to and from if I needed to. But it was convenient for me to pick it up because it was always closed after work. We loved that, and we were there a few months, and then the whole headquarters moved to Poitiers. And at Poitiers, we lived in a housing development called Weird Project. That's not right.
That was in Texas.
That's in Texas. The housing, anyway.
Roger Buttery.
Well, and lived there. And our daughter Kathy was born while we were living in Poitiers. And then we were transferred to Paris, and we lived in, say that word, La Givardi.
That was Roger is where we lived in
Paris.
Poitiers. In Paris, it was
Bourlin.
Chateau de Lorraine.
We rented the chateau from Madame Lagarde, whose husband had been in the diplomatic service. She was a very gracious landlady. And we had lots of company when we lived in Paris.
A little louder.
Oh, we had lots of company when we lived in Paris. And Madame Lagarde babysat for us frequently and fired the furnace. And then in
So you had had Kathy.
well, Kathy was born on Valentine's Day in 1957, and we moved to Paris early in December of '57, and then in '58, in June of '58, Jay was born. So he was born at the American Hospital in Paris. And we had many guests when we lived in Paris. So it was always fun, something happening all the time. And, you know, in that time in France, most people that were expecting a baby stayed home. And every time I went to an antique shop, they came running with a chair. They would be seated. And we took as many trips as we could while we were in France. The first trip that we took was to Italy, going down by Carcassonne and wonderful Italian Riviera and down that way by France, French Riviera. And then, where else did we go? We got to Spain, and our big trip when we lived in Poitiers was to Spain. And we saw bullfights and all of the things. And we stayed in an English hotel, which was delightful.
Hotel d'Ingleterre.
Yeah. And then we went to Germany. When Kathy was a very small baby, we went to Germany. LJ went to a school, a finance school in Limgris, Germany. And so she was not quite 3 months old. But they took her in the nursery because she looked 3 months old. We were supposed to be 3 months old, Gideon. And we made several trips in Germany to visit friends that we had known at Red River Arsenal. And then we had a nice trip back to Poitiers from Germany, going through Luxembourg, isn't that right? Through Luxembourg. And then in the late summer of '52, we were reassigned to the States.
But meantime,
Fair.
how did you get, you know, you two should be sitting together. Why don't you come over here just a little bit and sit with LJ. To get your gold furniture from France. I want to replay it, just how you did that and how you got it in your car.
We were living in Poitiers at that time.
These darling people love beautiful things, and they found those things over there, and they just, you know, when you can't live without it, you take it with you. Now I want you to tell us how you took it with you.
Well, we just had our car. It's an older car. It wasn't so old then, was it? But anyway, and so when Kathy was 2 weeks old, we went to Bordeaux Antique Fair with our friends. A young man from England and a young lady who was working there because she came over to be with her sister and her husband. So we wanted to get this gold console, and we managed to get it in the back seat of the car and bring that back. And then later, another time when we were living in Poitiers, that was maybe we lost.
We were living in Poitiers both
times. We went to another antique fair later and bought a vitrine, and we wondered how we would get it back, and they said, oh, they would tie it on the top of the car, which they did. And with fear and trembling.
Now what is this that you brought back?
A vitrine.
A latrine?
Vitrine.
A gold
vitrine.
Louis XVI style vitrine.
Okay.
And it's for, you know, showing off objects that you kind of like.
And what did you use this for?
Well, we have it with some things that we kind of, you know, treasure. Things that people would like to look at. All the outside's glass and the wood part is gold.
Okay. But you squeezed Kathy underneath the
No,
thing.
I don't think Kathy went with us.
No, she wasn't with us. She wasn't born
Not this
then.
time.
No, she was.
Maybe she was being babysat.
Yeah.
I don't remember now.
So anyway, she wasn't with us. She might have been with us. We took her once.
Anyway, you got this beautiful thing back to Paris, where you were living.
No, we were in Poitiers then.
Uh-huh. Okay, now then, when did you start teaching for independent schools again, Virginia?
Well, let's see, I came back, this was in France, and we came back to Fort Benning, Georgia. And they had Army schools. Wasn't that an Army school? I
Yeah.
taught in the Army schools at Fort Benning, Georgia. Let's see, I started we got back in September. And I didn't start, and see, I didn't teach that year. The second year, I asked to substitute. By Christmas, they hadn't asked me to substitute at all, so I called them and said, I'm not getting any work. Have you forgotten me? And so then after that, they asked me to start substituting, which I did, and then a few days later, they said, would I be interested in a job? I said, well, I had two very young children. I didn't know. And they said, well, they had another one coming up later in the spring. Try that one. So I took the job, full-time job, later in the spring, which was a 5th grade class. And so then I taught the rest of that year, and then I taught.
And they had a nursery on the post.
They had a post nursery, and LJ would take the children to the nursery, and then I rode over with some friends to school. And then that summer I went to summer school, which consumed the summer.
In
And
Georgia.
children to the University of Georgia sponsored the summer school. And then I taught the whole next year, and I was just getting ready to teach again that year in August, and then we had orders to go to Turkey.
That's where we met.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get to go until, a year later.
Oh, LJ was there
A year
before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I left the States in October, and
September.
well, whatever it was, I arrived in October then, and in Turkey, and Kennedy. That was during the Berlin airlifts, I think, and Kennedy had stopped all air travel to Europe at that point, and so it was May before the family could join me, and so those several months in Turkey, I had rented an apartment and partially furnished it and lived in that apartment until Virginia and the family could come.
And then, what happened after that, Virginia?
Well, I was dividing my time between LJ's family and my family in North Carolina, and so we got our orders. We were visiting up here that we could leave. So we made the plans to go, and we went by train from Gastonia, North Carolina to Fort Town.
The orders to for them not to travel. Orders for them to travel had already been issued. We had closed our house and were ready to and
we had
packed all the furniture, ready to go when the orders came through that no dependent travel was authorized until later. So all the furniture had been packed, and all the clothes that weren't in suitcases had been packed, ready for shipment, and it had to be stored until they could come. So
Oh, wow.
they were a family without place to live.
Oh, wow.
We managed well.
Oh, say, okay, now you came to Turkey. Where did LJ meet you there?
Well, we came by way of Germany. We came through. We landed at what was the town? Had the airport.
Well, it was outside of Istanbul.
Wiesbaden. Frankfurt.
Yeah, okay.
We came to Frankfurt and spent the night, the day and the night there, and then we came to Istanbul, changed to a Turkish Airlines, and flew, and we got there on May the 30th, it's a holiday, and LJ was there to meet us. And
What year was it?
it was in 62. I guess it was 62, wasn't it? It wasn't
Yeah, it was
61.
62.
And so it was the children were we were fascinated with it, and yet they said it smelled so awful. They just didn't want to. They said that they never wanted to go to Konak again for that big shopping. And then that was their favorite thing to do. Every weekend, we would go down to Konak and go to the vegetable. We went to the vegetable market on Sunday and shop and do things. And Jay had we got there on the 30th of May, so he had his 4th, 5th, and 6th birthdays in Turkey.
Oh,
And
And how old was he?
He
Well, you said fourth, fifth, and sixth.
fourth,
Okay,
his
that's
fourth,
fine.
fifth, and sixth
Yeah.
birthdays in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy was ready for. Well, she was there 1 year, and then she went to start first grade.
Mm-hmm.
She had her first grade in Turkey.
And when did you start teaching?
Well, we got there at the end of May, and so I wandered over to the dependent school just to say that I would be interested in substituting and put my name on the list. And I was dreaming that I would have a chance to substitute. And so just before school started out, Miss Hanson called and said that she would like me to start substituting. And then in a few days it was determined that the teacher who was planning to come wasn't going to come. So I taught 2 years that I was there in the fourth grade. And the school system, teachers became our best friends while we were in Turkey.
We had our famous tobacco warehouse school there.
School was
And
really-
Virginia was up on the second floor, as were all the children.
It was a long, steep group of steps to go up and down.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, you taught, you say fourth
Fourth
grade?
grade.
Uh-huh. And Virginia had the Turkish people in. Talk about your Christmas program, Virginia.
Oh, let's see, the second year I was there, I decided we would invite the Turkish children into a Christmas program, and the children, I had such fun preparing for it. And then they came, and we did everything that we had arranged, and had cookies and things for them, punch. But they just stayed and stayed.
But what was the program, Virginia?
Well, it was a little play that we'd written about Christmas and things, just for so they'd get an idea of what we were doing.
Okay, you included the baby Jesus and
we
the shepherds.
We had lots of, and we had costumes of the wise men, and then we had lots. I guess today they wouldn't allow us to do that kind of type thing.
No, they wouldn't now, but they did.
We had lots of chalk drawings and things about the room to explain it. And the next day I saw one of the Turkish people that had been there with the children, and I thought they were going to say something nice, and they said to me, well, we just didn't understand why the children kept crossing and uncrossing their body. They crossed their legs and they crossed their arms.
Oh, I guess that is not
That's not proper in Turkish.
in Turkish. Oh,
And
that's
they just thought that was insulting. But I mean, they stayed so long, I guess they must have gotten some interest from it.
And you were expecting the smaller children, and what
I was
happened?
expecting the small children, and these children were high school. They looked like high school children. I know they must have been 8th grade and above. But I think the younger children would have really enjoyed it a little bit more than these older children.
Well, they didn't rush off.
No.
And they enjoyed your refreshments.
Yes, they did.
Well, Virginia and LJ, you are just absolutely just precious, and it's been my pleasure to be here at your gorgeous home. They have let's see, how many square foot do you have in this home? You keep adding to. LJ, how many square foot do you have in
Oh,
this
I
home?
don't know, it's something over 5,000,
Yeah,
maybe 5 or
it
6.
is really a mansion, and it's beautiful. It's their joy to have people come and to entertain. They are wonderful, and the community really looks up to them. They're wonderful leaders of this special community on Signal Mountain. And LJ is now doing, what are you doing, LJ, for your spare time?
Oh, I work with genealogy. I do a lot of genealogical research. I've so far written about 14 or 15, compiled 14 or 15 books on genealogy.
And
of
about how
my
many?
family and families of those that are close to me.
Wow, 14 or 15 books, and how many people does that involve?
I have over 50,000 people on my computer.
Oh.
They're not all in my books,
Isn't that
but
fabulous?
they're related.
And Virginia is the one who is the most darling homemaker in the whole world, and just a beautiful cook, and she makes everything gorgeous and beautiful in this home for everybody to enjoy. They have bridal showers, and they have what else? What else do you do?
Well, we have organizations that we belong to. They usually come once a year, sometimes most every year. We have the DAR, the genealogical group, and we belong to a record club, and what else?
And
No, they don't come.
you see, Virginia was honored as Woman of the Year of this community, and LJ, I think you had some special honors too.
The retired officer.
Retired officer.
I was a member of the year of Retired Officers Association, 1995.
Oh, bravo, bravo. That means you're very busy socially and so happy. And I just want you to know what a real joy it is for me to be spacious, absolutely fabulous porch. It's so beautiful. I just never have seen anything as gorgeous as this in anybody's home. And then here's the beautiful outside trees and the little creatures out there making the rhythmical sounds. And then here is their rock work and the patio out here. So very special. Just beautiful. Active in their church and very instrumental in helping people in any way that they need to be helped. Virginia was volunteered to do the refreshments in November for the Genealogical Society before she realized who it was, what she was doing. And I brought me
The
here.
first one, 1988.
Oh,
First one is 1988.
Yeah, but I have substitutes in the arrangement. And then
This is-
in 1900. The 18, can I say that?
oh, thank you. Oh.
1888 is, 1988 is on,
Did you buy them with the needle points already on, or did you have them covered?
These
This is in Belgium.
oh,
Her blue
You
needle
know,
point,
I wasn't in the nice
got
shopping.
in,
That's just a little.
Belgium.
are you real hungry? You want to eat first?
Well, whenever you say that,
Well,
we
you
can
want
do
to-
that.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. It's 12:30.
Be just fine.
Well,
So we'll eat. Virginia has fixed a lovely lunch, and Gabe brought something too. She had congealed salad, and here's Virginia. He will be back in just a minute, and now Jay's over here admiring all these fun things she has in her house. She has a beautiful view of the, I don't know if it's the lake or river. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask her in a minute.
It seems to be a lake, part of the lake.
Part of the lake, I think, but I'm not sure.
Well, it would be because it's not flowing like a river.
Look at that planter. Isn't it beautiful with that little, holding that,
Yeah,
silk is so pretty.
it's like a bird bath holding it.
Yeah, holding flowers.
Perfect,
It's just
perfect.
perfect. That squirrel's eating all the bird food though.
She has a darling
Do you
kitchen over
remember it?
here.
Mhm.
It's just lovely. Now, Precious Face is right here.
Wherever. Y'all,
So happy to.
you had the-
We're so happy to be here, Gay.
okay.
Yeah. That's customary, I guess most places that's what's in it. Should be.
Okay, and this is where she spends most of her time.
Have ourselves under that.
This is Gay Long of Tennessee Long Acres.
Long acres.
Tennessee Long Acres.
Yeah.
Nine
Put that
five
thing away.
952 something.
952 Paige Roxbury Road.
There you go.
Yeah, so you want
And
to
she
come
says,
sit
sit down. Tennessee home, and we decided to say a word or two about the fact that she was the first person to go over there as a teacher. And Gabe, would you like to carry on about what year that was?
1946, August.
1946 August.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah, that's right.
And you want to say anything more?
I went over to Germany, was flown over, was one of the first 5 teachers who were flown over to, quote, set up and supervise the dependent school programs. I was to supervise art. There was someone for home economics, one for music, one for art, for math, and one for science. We met at with the airport.
Frankfurt?
Air Force Airport in Washington, D.C. And we're flying over in a 4-engine prop plane. Known as, see, I can't remember any of this stuff.
That's all right. Don't worry about the details. Just
And we
tell-
landed in Paris first. I had told one of the GIs who was the center was kind of for everybody. I said, I would like to see the sunrise as we go in the morning. So he said, I said, well, will you wake me up? There were 5 seats on that plane, and they gave them to us 5, which was very nice, civilians. And the poor old GIs were lined up on bucket seats up and down the plane. I was trying to sleep in one of the seats. I woke up and I looked around, and here were lined up, arm to arm with the, I don't know how many GIs on the floor. And they looked so comfortable. They were kind of stretched out. And their legs weren't cramped. And I thought, gee, I wonder if I could do that. So I saw a spot that left a little bit of space. And I just got up and crawled in between these guys and went to sleep. And it was just before daybreak, or at daybreak. This guy, sergeant, I guess, or somebody came up and poked me, and he said, now's the time. So I carefully worked my way out from my comfortable spot and went to the windows. I said, I don't know how, I've never seen a plane like it before or since. The windows, to see out the window, you had to sit on the floor, or almost. And there were some boxes about maybe 10 inches high and probably 15 inches square. A whole bunch of them were stacked high like I made a mountain under canvas. And I could see one edge of one of them sticking out, so I pulled that out and I sat on that and watched the sunrise. Very exciting. And sometime that evening, we arrived in Paris. We're driven to a hotel, and for the night. I guess they fed us there, I don't remember, but anyway, the next morning, Dick Murray, who's in charge of the group, hired a taxi with a top off, had a hole in the top, and we drove around, saw some of the exciting sights. Boy, were we thrilled and excited. And then the next day, we took off in what's known as a Goody Bird, a two-engine plane. I mean, it was a turboprop. No, I didn't even turboprop. It was a prop plane to Wiesbaden. From there, they took us by car over to Frankfurt, which was at that time the Army headquarters. They took us to a hotel where it was half bombed away. The side where we slept, the side where my bed was, when it rained, that side of the wall got damp. And shortly after, we were able to unpack a bag and maybe freshen up a little bit, and then we had to walk 2 blocks across the bombed out city street to go to eat at another hotel. They told us, be very careful because there's lots of holes that you could step in. There were no lights, no street lights at all. I can't remember, maybe we had a flashlight. There was 3 women. We started down. There were no cars, except military. But there were streetcars. As we came to cross the street, there was a streetcar coming, one coming each direction. And they were stopped. And I presume we thought they were waiting for us. I don't know. Anyway, we started to cross. Well, the other 2 gals then stepped back. Whether I was too far along or whether I just didn't have the thoughtfulness to step back, I continued on. And the next thing I knew, I was between those two streetcars.
Oh my goodness.
I really think this is one of the close times I had in my life to death. I turned sideways and stood very still. And it wasn't my time to go. The Lord was looking after me. They both moved on, their respective directions, and I safely moved off across the street.
Mm.
And I didn't want to let on, I was quite so shocked. But then we got to the hotel, had our dinner, and I called Mrs. Franklin, I called Wiesbaden, where my brother was, and he came over. We had a nice meeting, made some arrangements. And then by and by, we had to go back to the hotel for the night. I should say that as we drove from Wiesbaden to Frankfurt, it was one of the most shocking things that ever happened to me. To see the debris, the agonized mess of houses, homes were just destroyed. Several places there were bathtubs or toilets or something sticking to a third-story wall. Nothing else. It was unbelievable, really fearful. But I know we just took it because it was there. And then not until several nights later did I realize how much it was affecting me when I turned off the lights and moved right into bed. You look at something in a bright light and then close your eyes and how it's sort of it repeats itself in the dark, in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened here. I saw those walls, those broken down walls, those pieces of homes. I can't find the words to describe it. And I can see that in my mind. It's silhouette. Well, and I thought, Mike, this is really getting me. I can't do this. So I tried to not let it affect me quite like that. It was hard not to. I remember when we used to walk around through the rubble. We'd shake our heads wisely and say, it'll be a couple of years before you ever clear this up. Well, it'll be a couple of years, maybe 10 years before they just clear it up. And what with the Marshall Plan and some more work on it, the Germans got busy and had the debris cleaned up and taken out. It was interesting to see what they did with it. Our school, high school, was out of town, about 3 miles. And for a while I had an open Jeep because I had to go to that school, high school, and junior high there, and then to 2 elementary schools. So, turned off a minute, I was his cat.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Oh, here comes a cat.
The long-haired black one.
Mm-hmm. Just making his way along there. Afraid we missed him.
So anyhow, when you drive out, we were sort of in the country. There's a main road, and then we turned off into more of a side road and went to where there had been a really very fine school, and in the German days. And then later, during the war, it had been some kind of, I guess, barracks for German soldiers. And after the Americans came in, it became some barracks for American soldiers. And I remember when we first saw it, they wanted us to go through and say, when we first examined it, checking to see if it was due for a school, for us, the backboards were full. Americans go home. Wives go home. Take your kids. Written on the blackboards. Anyway, as we about halfway up that road, on one side, they began to dump the stuff. It's rubble. All kinds of everything. It became a dump place. All rubble and debris of all kinds. When finally we moved from that school, the pile was mountainous. Went on for a couple of blocks and probably was what you'd call would be about a city block high.
My goodness.
And the trucks could drive up onto it, dump their load, and drive back down. One time, one of the worst things I ever saw was on the way out there was the truck with the debris from the casino, where they fed us all. It come in there, and it was dumping. I didn't listen to it quite so soon as it started, but they were dumping their food stuff, and the people, the German people, were on this hill that went up. They were milling around there, grabbing up, first trying to catch whatever was coming down, pieces of lettuce and pieces of potatoes, whatever, anything they saw, they were grabbing it and pushing each other around to get it, to beat somebody else to it. I remember writing an article, I'm going to send this somewhere. Somebody's got to know what the awful time these people are having. But that's where the rebel went to. And within a couple of years it was gone. After it got out of town, the square, the rubber spot square, which was so beautiful, was completely empty. First, for a while it was so full and the people had found ways to sort of dig under and make themselves little huddles, little warm places to live. You see clothes hanging up on top of the ground. No house around. The house was down underneath. The home was down underneath. Weird.
Now, what was the city?
Pardon?
The name of the city was what? The
This is
city.
Frankfurt.
That's Frankfurt.
Yeah, see, I didn't live in Wiesbaden until I went into the Air Force in 56. So,
Well, that is absolutely wonderful that you gave us that information, Gay.
what's that?
That's wonderful information that you have shared today. We appreciate that.
Well, it's just sort of a personal impression, Nora, and that's not giving you history of the school very well, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, this is part of the history of the school.
A louder one.
That was part of the history of the school also.
Well,
That was part of the history, and we appreciate that.
that school became we moved to they built a new school right in town in Frankfurt, more in the American area. They moved us into for a while we were in another place where it was half bombed, and the other half was okay. But that was not for so long because we found a apartment building that had 3 floors that were okay. The top floor had been bombed, and so it couldn't be used. It's the 3 floors, with 4 rooms on each floor, and so we had 4. When the teachers all came over, the rest of them in October, I don't remember the date, we had that was made by that was BOQ. What do we call it? Teachery, I guess. I don't remember. But anyway, that was for some years. That was where the teachers lived. I guess the second year we were there, or third year maybe. No, the second year. The top section was repaired, re-roofed and stuff, and that held 3 people. 3 teachers. I think later on, Mount Kennedy. We would walk from there up to the casino for our meals. 25 cents a meal.
35 cents.
25 cents.
25 cents.
Lots of dried stuff. Dried milk, we almost like regurgitated as far as I was concerned. Sorry. What else? With the beginning of the second year over there, my mother had she was in the States working. She had a bad fall, and she couldn't hold her job any longer. So she was going to come over as my dependent. It's the only way we could get her over here as my dependent and stay for about maybe 6 months. I went over on a year's leave of absence from the University of Denver. My mother came over for 6 months leave from her job. She was managing a big apartment house, and we both of us came back 27 years later. Anyway,
She managed the apartment house over there.
She did manage a big apartment house at home.
At home?
And she had fallen on the ice and broken her leg very, very badly.
Oh.
They told her she'd never walk.
Oh dear.
And she said, well, I certainly will. And he said, the doctor said, well, it's up to you and God, said he. So it was up to her and God. And God and Mother said, thanks. So as soon as she got over there, she came on a cane. Mother went along, she discarded that cane. But then she got herself a job teaching the GIs math. And she had to study at night. I'm sure it's hard to say that she never taught math. She was a kindergarten teacher. But she was a smart lady. And they all loved her, of course. That was, I guess, maybe that was toward the end of the year. She did that for quite a while. So the next year,
Mother's name is what?
Hmm?
Mother's name is?
Mother's name is Tenny Long. She was known as Tenny L. Long. That's the way she signed her name in the later days. Her name is Tennessee Lavinia Long. And she was originally from Tennessee, married, came out to Colorado. And so all my brother, my sister, and I were all born in Colorado. I was born in Boulder, my twin brother and I. My sister was born, she was 2 years younger. Anyway, the second year over there, for my mother, she started teaching in kindergarten. And she taught there.
Kindergarten.
Yeah, she taught kindergarten for probably. Well, I believe she taught there until until I was in 1956. The Air Force decided they wanted to supervise their own schools, so they took the supervision out of the hands of the Army, and put Air Force personnel into a headquarters. And so they gathered up all the educators they need. They asked me to come and supervise the art, and so I had to move to Wiesbaden. So at that time, Mother was going to move to Wiesbaden with me, and it's not county all, because what is it, the people who, what do they call it? The superintendent over in Wiesbaden asked my mother if she'd come over and set up and supervise the kindergartens over there, so she could build them up. Wiesbaden, the kindergartens for the Air Force schools in Wiesbaden headquarters. So she finally agreed. She came over. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 kindergartens at that time. Her mother left. There was something like, well, the only number I can think of right now, and I think it's low, is 14 kindergartens in Wiesbaden.
Really, that many?
Mother decided that she determined the children needed kindergarten, and she could get what she had to have. she played the Army and the Navy and the Air Force. Well, okay, I'll try. If you can't get that room painted, I guess I can get some. Maybe I can get some Air Force to do it for me. And well, I could get the Army to do it for me, whichever. In the school, in the apartment buildings that were built for the GIs and for the officers, there were big sort of family rooms or recreation rooms in the basement, large rooms. So Mother decided that those would be kindergarten rooms. So in ever so many of these buildings, she worked out to get them organized, painted, furniture, so on, for kindergarten. It's just a wonderful job.
Yeah.
She had hired teachers. One thing she had to do was to find Germans who would do the cleaning. It had to be Germans, of course, but someone who would do the cleaning. Usually it was Germans. But there was several different several times somebody, GIs wanted to make some extra money. And they would come in, and the kindergartens would be clean. I remember one time, Mother's story, she said that the sergeant with several children started cleaning one of these kindergartens after school. And one day she dropped in on them, and there were these little kids and working away, doing something. She said to one of them, she was handing the GI, the sergeant, whatever he was, his check, the money. And here's this little kid scrubbing the tables and working away, and said, and what do you get? He said, I get $1 for doing the samples. And another one over here said, what do you get? He said, well, I get $2 for cleaning the bathrooms. And the smaller one, what do you get? Well, I get 50 cents for washing all the blackboards and something. And there's this little tiny thing like this, and she said, and what do you do? He said, I'd be good. I love that. I'd be good.
This is Lucille Hanson, Mesa, Arizona, 1996, about the 7th of August at Gee Long's home. And she has this beautiful home. We're so happy she's here, able to take care of herself even though she's the happy age of 88. She has this beautiful scene for her to enjoy. While she's gone, she has somebody feed her birds so they won't get hungry. So, here we are taking a picture of your lovely outside area. Chair. Let's think about sitting in there, and I can put my arm on the handle of on the armrest of the other chair.
The other story was Mother's kindergarten. She was helping, watching the children unload a bus one time, one early morning. All the kids were popping off, and so glad to see Mrs. Long. And one little fellow stopped and said, what do you think that mom is just standing there for? Just standing there, not moving. And she said, I don't know, I suppose he's listening for a word. Well, that could be. So off they went into the room. And my mother had got them all off, and she washed them all off, and she turned around to go back into the classroom. And here was this one little kid, flat on his stomach, head at the grass. And she said, Tommy, what are you doing? He said, I'm listening for a worm. So one thing was very important to Mother is her teachers were paid what they call non-appropriated funds, which is the way we were paid for the first 2 years, at least first year, maybe 2, all the teachers. They wanted schools, but didn't want to pay for them, as usual. So they had not appropriated funds meant liquor store money. They we used to write, say we're going to write posters and put them up all over the place. You know, buy your liquor and educate your kids. Drink a day gives the teacher her pay. We didn't do it, but wouldn't that have been a good idea?
Wonderful idea.
So then we finally, we were, the teachers were on civil service with that, at the time Mother was doing the kindergarten, but not the kindergarten teachers. That was not important. But to her it was. So she worked through Washington, through all the military over here, overseas. She worked continually. She wrote letters and she called telephone and she finally did get her kindergartners, teachers, on civil service, which was really
Bravo.
it was a break,
Major.
unusual.
Major thing.
Wonderful break, I'm proud of her for that.
Got another story. And so we're listening to what the story is going to be.
Well, I don't,
Plates up here behind you.
Mhm.
I was looking at all your gorgeous blue plates.
yeah.
How many do you have, Gay?
I don't know.
A lot.
I don't know, some people have figured it out, but I never remember. Sorry about that.
Don't remember how many. Oh, they're beautiful though.
No. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She wants to think a second.
In addition to the 5 of us, I think it was 90 teachers who came over in October. They had quite a sad experience. It was cold, and they came in to Bremerhaven, were put on a train, an unheated train, on bucket seats, all night long, half the day, more of the day, half the day maybe, down to Wiesbaden. They were met by some eager, well-rested, well-bedded supervisors, quote unquote, who were glad to see them and thought they'd love to have a trip on Hitler's yacht. Quite a thrill. So we had piled them into buses after that train ride and drove over to the Rhine and got on Hitler's yacht. And down the Rhine we went. Of course, it was quite an experience. Really, a very exciting boat, ship, boat, yacht. It was quite interesting. And then these poor patient people, we finally got them to a hotel where they could at least rest a little. We went over to Bad Daheim, a little resort near Wiesbaden. And that also was unheated. See, we couldn't get coal down for some reason. In October they shouldn't have been able to, because the Rhine wasn't frozen as it was later on. But I guess it's just no heat generated by their furnaces.
You have any idea what year that was, Gay?
What?
Have any idea what year that was?
46.
And 46, okay.
We had we had our orientation conference there. We sat for, I think it was 3 days. For all the meetings, for all the meals, for everything, our coats, our boots, everything warm that we had on while we sat there and listened to people, the military telling us how to get along with them. The educators telling us how to get along with them, and so it went. It was an interesting conference, but I guess we could hear it, but we couldn't take it all in because we were
Your
so
bodies were
cold.
just so cold.
Yeah, just very cold.
Wow.
And the only place that was warm was in the bathroom. You did have hot water. If you go in the bathroom, turn the hot water on, get the room steaming up with water. That was quite sad. Then the teachers were assigned to their various places. They had said they would put us, since we had to be teachers now, we couldn't be supervisors. Didn't have any money for supervisors. We'd asked to be stationed in Frankfurt, which was always settled in there, might as well be there. So they all got their assignments. And they were all told about the things they wouldn't have. You won't have desks, you won't have books yet, you won't have well, you won't have much of anything to teach with. You're on your own, but you have kids, and you'll teach. That's sort of the orientation that they got from the headquarters, sort of thing. It really was pretty, gosh.
Did the teachers take it
Oh yeah, the
bravely?
teachers took it, they took it, and it was still just as enthusiastic as they were in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They were wonderful, really. I think we all were.
Yes.
We put up with an awful lot and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
We heard back from some of the teachers. One of them, I remember once, said they'd drive over a manure pile to get to her school.
Hmm.
Some pretty rare stories. We were very fortunate, you people in Frankfurt. We had schools. We had they'd taken over an elementary school for our elementary. And they took over this school I already told you about from the high school. There was another elementary taken over for Kirkst nearby. And they
Did the German children go to school?
yes, the German children were
Someplace.
going to school at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a very bad winter. It was one of the coldest winters they've ever had. They said it was the coldest winter in 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it was pretty rugged because we didn't have, for example, in our BOQ, our teacherage, we had no coal in the furnace. We were supposed to have a guy who came in to jack up the furnace 2 or 3 times a day, a German, and but we didn't have coal, he couldn't do anything about it. We would go over to the, I remember there's no way to carry coal, nothing to carry it in. We tied an apron around our middles, held the sides out, and carried the coal in there.
Mm-hmm.
We went down in danger of life and limb. These kaput houses. Some of them you could see that you could get down into a basement. Go down there and find piles of coal and put them in your apron and bring them back. That was one way of doing it.
Surprising that the Germans weren't there at the
Pardon?
kaput houses. Surprising that the German families weren't there at the kaput houses doing the same thing.
Hmm?
I said the German families were not doing that. You just thought about that. So
Yeah,
you went to the,
well, I don't know. But not where we were. They put the American dependents
mm-hmm.
were in this area that they fenced in. It was with rolls and rolls and rolls, huge rolls, higher than your head, of barbed wire. There were about, I don't know how big it was, probably
Rolls of what?
2 or 3 miles, barbed wire.
Oh, barbed wire. I see.
Probably maybe an area that was 2 by 3 or 3 by 3 miles big.
Okay, so they put
And
that
then
all
they had to
around
go
you.
in, and that's where they put all the Americans. That's where our BOQ was, our teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Was in that area. The Germans were not allowed in that area, except by passes.
Yes.
And which you could go in with it. You had to go through what they called the green gate, and you had to show your ID.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have fun saying they never did pay attention to it, and so paste even a dog's picture on top of your picture. see if you can get away with it. Oh well, something to do, I guess.
Nobody paid attention to it.
Yeah, it's funny. So they that the barbed wire gave way later on to a regular fence, and then later on that was taken down. But the whole area was first and off limits to the Germans.
Hmm.
I had an interesting experience with a friend of mine in the States. Had a friend in Germany who had a friend in what's known as the black zone. I mean, what do you call it? Well, it was the Russian zone, but whatever, they had a special name for it. And they wanted to send something to this girl in the American zone, friend of my American friend, wanted to send something to her friend and her family in the Russian zone. And they asked if I would accept it. My friend, the American friend, she wrote me, and I said yes, I would do so. But I don't see how she's going to get down here. And how's she going to come after? Well, they would. So they just let me know when it's coming, which they did, and I got this big package. And they had let the gal in the Russian zone know. Now, to get a German into the American section there, they had to be met by an American, and with a good, an ID, and I had to verify that they were revisiting me and so on, which I did. I did this several times. That's how, but one time, well, there were two times. One was when we opened the box on the kitchen floor, sitting there with both of us. The German lady, she couldn't speak any English, I couldn't speak any German. We opened this box, and they had said cocoa, and they had asked for half soles and tacks, the half soles and tacks, and everything in there, the clothes, just stuffed with cocoa, covered with cocoa.
Oh dear.
And we sat there, we were trying to, I think, mostly trying to cry. We laughed and laughed and laughed hysterically. What else? So another time, I was called from the gate to say I had a German wanted to talk to me. So I went down, and here was the same gal with her little child, her little 5-year-old, beautiful little blonde kid. And so I okayed him. No, wait a minute. That was the time that they couldn't. For some reason, they said they couldn't let her in. I guess maybe because of a child or something, without the base commander's okay. And I said, well, let's just call him up. He said, oh, I can't do that. She said, he's at some officer's party or something in the casino. And so he called, and but I said, yeah, come talk to me to call up there, and they said that he couldn't answer the phone. So I said, let me have that phone. He's going to get that file line up off his lap, and he's going to answer this phone. And he did. He did. I didn't say get the phone line off. I just said I will speak to the base commander, and I said, this lady has come to see me, and I want to see her, and I want her to spend the night with me. It was a dark night by that time.
Mm.
So I took her home. So I got her home, and
You did get the base commander. You did get the base commander.
I got the base. Well, sure, I got the base commander.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You had to just, cause a big stick to get things done. Sometimes you had to just really fuss. Sometimes you could be. You had to choose the kind of attitude you were. You should be cute and young and please.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you could need to be cross and ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to be, different ways. You just pushed it till you got which one. Anyway, she came home with me, the mother of the child, and she said the baby's been vomiting. She told me they were vomiting. So, anyway.
Now, were these from the German
Black zone, from Russian zone.
From the Russian zone.
When they came, what they call coming over black.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how they do that, I don't know, but they raised a workout that they can come over black.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of them. Oh, I think I must have had 4 or 5 times that I received packages for them, for those people, the same girl. So I wanted ways to put them to bed, and it wasn't quite, no, it wasn't quite easy, I guess, because I know we did, yeah, we put the little girl to bed. And as I recall, she did get to feeling better anyway. We got her up. The girl, the Russian girl, wanted to get home because I wanted to get out because I guess her arrangement on coming in black was to go back that same day.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the Bahnhof, the depot. And they were pushing people, masses of people, and they were pushing into the windows, trying to get up there. And it was impossible. And the mother began to cry. I said, look, we can't do this. You're going to go home with me and spend the night. And, well, we're going to get my brother to take us down tomorrow. Because she was an officer. And so that's when I called the colonel. I'd forgotten her. Because I had to have her spend the night with me. That's why I called her. So that's when I took her home and put her to bed. The next morning, she was little girl was a little bit better, and they had a fairly reasonable night. And I called Rex and I said, I just can't. We just got to get her out on a train. So he came over, and he got on, when the train came in that she was going to take, he got on that, and he told the conductor that she wanted a compartment. There was absolutely nobody else in it. And he's, you know, he had a way too of getting what he wanted. And he said, I'm going to check at the other end of this line, and when she gets off, and I'm going to find out if she's done what I phone. My brother was an officer, lived in Wiesbaden, and he was able to come over and get on that train and talk to the conductor and say, I want a compartment for this lady and her child, and I don't want her disturbed. I want you to see that she is not disturbed for the entire trip. She's going to whatever town it was. So that's exactly what happened. She got on with her child and made a safe trip. She'll let me know later.
This is your,
things like that were so, you know, the Americans were as they should have been, I think, at that time, the top men, and especially the officers.
And Rex was your twin brother.
Rex is my twin brother, yeah. And his family had come over in, they came over in November of 47, 46. Actually, I can't tell you. 56. No,
Anyway, they were there.
46.
How many children did your brother have?
But
Did your brother have children that he brought?
he had 3 children. 2 of them went to school. The high school for the Wiesbaden children had to be in Frankfurt. The Wiesbaden children had to be bused to Frankfurt for their high school days. And Rex was stationed in Wiesbaden, lived in a little town called Hofheim, about, it was just halfway between Wiesbaden and Frankfurt. And for a while, I could do whatever I wanted to. I could get on the bus that took the kids to Wiesbaden from our school and come back to, and go back and visit the family over there. It was kind of nice. Well, I want to tell you something about that family. They had this terrible smell in this German house that it was requisitioned for. Awful smell, but they could not locate what it was. They tried and tried and tried. So finally they did locate. The smell came from this locked room. When they had taken the house over, they had asked Rex if they could keep this one room and store their stuff in it. And they had no objection to that, and they were feeling sorry for these people. So, that was fine. So they called this woman, who was, she's been the landlady of the house, you know, she owned the house. And they got a hold of her, and she came, told her to take her key and open that door. And it was half full of rotting potatoes.
Oh my goodness.
Her neighbors, probably her own family, were starving.
Mm.
You know, no, I mean, they had very little anyway. And yet this was rotting away down there.
Mm.
I thought that was kind of bad.
So
So
sad.
anyhow, what else? Was one little item I was going to
Another picture, she wanted to have the lake scene from every window. She said, I almost made it, and she did. Here are the Turkish dancers down here. Her home is covered with beautiful things. Every place you look, there's just such beauty in this home. Such love has been here to put these things around her foyer, as she calls it. And she has this tray, and she has these. Here's a stairway that goes up in this area. Bookcase below. Lovely mirror here. Little tiny persons here on the wall. It's so sweet. And here's her bedroom over here. Looks out over the lake also. One on the other side. Her sister stays here with her. I'm sure she stays in one of these rooms. Beautiful everywhere. Lovely carvings in this corner. And her Turkish plates over here. Turkish plates, beautiful. Decorate her laundry area. Cupboard. There's something very special here. If you can think, it'll be fine. If you can't think, well, we just won't
I
worry
don't
about
think
it.
anything right now. That's what I'm thinking about the first time that I went to Turkey. My sister's husband had been stationed there, and he was going to go into Turkey, and it turned out, that a nice happenstance, that they came, my sister and her husband came, and her son. No, he was, son, I'm sorry, son came up, but I was over there, already over there, to visit schools in Ankara. So, I knew when they were going to come. I found out what the flight number and all was. And so I asked to be released for that time from my work, and I was driven out in a staff car that went out to pick up my sister and her husband. And I was there to meet them. Big Red, Johnny, and Anchor. How about that?
Hmm.
Wasn't that something?
No, well said.
That was a real happenstance. Oh, boy.
So you met your sister and brother in Ankara.
Pardon?
Released from your work? Not
Yeah.
permanently, just a temporary release.
Oh, yes, just temporary.
Uh-huh,
Just
okay.
for the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
And you came to Izmir. I remember you gave demonstration to our teachers in our tobacco warehouse
I don't
school.
understand you, but
You gave us a demonstration in our tobacco warehouse school in Izmir.
yeah.
Don't you remember doing that?
Yeah, we went from Ankara to Izmir,
Mm-hmm.
and
Gave a workshop for the teachers.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
my job was to try to help teachers to teach art. Many teachers had very little education in art. I think the requirement in those days was only about maybe 6 hours of art classes. And most of them said, I don't know, I can't draw a straight line sort of thing, you know. So the demonstration was to help them, to show them how they can help kids, children, to do art projects, to learn about art, to know that they could
Create. They could create.
Yeah, this is, and I went from school to school. Sometimes I went to even a one-teacher school, and sometimes two-teacher schools. And sometimes, like Wiesbaden or Frankfurt or Ankara, there would be maybe 50 teacher schools.
Where did you have one?
Sometimes I would,
Where did you find one teacher schools?
at the listing, what I call listing posts in northern Germany, Denmark, and I remember one two-teacher school on the Rhine, down that way somewhere. I don't know the name of it.
Well, you certainly have been wonderful, Gay. We've loved you and enjoyed you.
It's good. I think it was helpful. Teachers usually welcomed me.
Absolutely.
Many of them felt like, well, I don't need any help teaching reading. I don't need help teaching math. I don't know how to do that. But they would admit they didn't actually know too much about teaching art. So they were glad to have me come, and that was very good.
You bet.
Because I always felt welcome at a school, which was wonderful.
And we had limited supplies, and you knew how to tell teachers what to do.
Yeah, oh yes.
You always had good ideas.
Yeah, what to do with the unusual things with what they had.
That's
To do
right.
with what they didn't have, yeah.
And we do appreciate you and love you.
And yes, the demonstration, sometimes I did a demonstration of working with children in a classroom. And showing the teacher how I would perform a class if I was teaching there.
Wonderful.
And that was always fun too, having
You
with
bet.
the kids.
We love that.
Yeah.
You're special. Very wonderful.
I remember one time they had a conference in Heidelberg, and we really had 150, this is a summer school. So they had 150 children, several teachers, I don't know how many. And we were in this big auditorium, and all of them had their tables. They said they were, so I'm going to teach watercolors. And that was really exciting, and I'm so glad to say it was successful. The children really enjoyed doing it, were successful in doing it, and I think they learned how to make the most out of their watercolors.
Terrific.
I can picture them all in the same room.
That
at the
was
same
something.
time.
That was a big undertaking.
That was in Heidelberg one time they had this conference.
You're brave to do that.
Huh?
You're very brave to do that, Gay.
Okay, well, it was scary too.
You're wonderful.
Yeah, that sort of thing is scary.
Yeah,
But most of the time, as far as I know, I was successful.
you were.
And I got nice reports on it, so
You were always
some people
successful.
thought it wasn't young.
You were wonderful.
Yeah.
And you still are. There she is, greeting her
She
beautiful people.
First I wouldn't have heard it called, but the time it was
There's,
right.
Mrs. Fox.
Well,
Carol Fox.
when you told Judy that you were going out to lunch with some friends, we didn't know it was Lucille.
She's
Well, she's just
here.
overdoing Norma Drysdale.
Well, yes,
That's all
Norma,
there is
yes,
to
that's
it.
right.
They had
It's
that.
important.
Lucille, or I mean, Gay, you've added on to your.
Door.
Here comes Tom.
I don't remember.
Oh, it was a pop plane. They called them C-54s in those days. They're 4-engine. Pop plane. Took us 3 days.
What's
We
your
stopped
license on
for gas and a pit stop on
No, that's the door.
what's the island where you always stop?
The island where we always stopped?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyway, that's where C-54. It took 3 days to go to Paris.
To Paris.
Well, that was first
With a
stop.
2-prop
And
plane.
the next day we went to Wiesbaden.
Yes. Yeah. Appreciate
The
you.
next day we took off from Paris in a 2-engine plane
Great.
called the C-47
Yeah.
on Goonibird.
Mm.
I didn't know then it was going to call Goonibird. I was going to fly thousands of miles in them. So, hi, you're back. Did you have fun?
Yes, we did.
Where was that?
Fairfield Lakes, that's
Oh, Fairfield Lake.
Yeah.
Well, to
Well, we finally got to John Knox, but it was.
Oh.
Ray and Johnny and I?
Camp.
We had
Oh.
we were never run by.
How long has that been?
I had never been there. LJ had been there. Conference.
How do you
I
turn
was
it
looking
on?
at the pictures
How
of
do you turn it on? What's the trick?
To stop the picture, then you poke it again.
Thanks,
And not
Don.
before.
Is it going?
Yes, it's going.
Is this going?
When that, you all didn't go to the conference, you did.
Yes,
Oh,
we
you
did.
went to the conference too.
You do your talking then.
Yeah, we're doing that
We
talking.
got there though rather late on
I mean, I've
Friday
been
afternoon
talking.
about
She's got me talking all
12:30.
afternoon.
Okay, that should been are out on a little trip this morning. This is Arizona. This is about the 23rd of September, 1996. We're at Lake Pleasant. This is a marina. It's over here. And seem to hear birds and sounds. So those are the sounds of the boats. There's the boats out here in Lake Pleasant. There are the hills. Can't seem to find the boat. Okay, there's the boat. Look over here. Water skiing. Roger Tom and Norma Drysdale is this morning to pick up the camera. And we decided to stop by Lake Pleasant because I hadn't been here before. This is about 40 miles out from my home, 50 miles out from my home in Mesa. It's really very pleasant. Lake Pleasant's a good name for it. View of the lake here. Little tiny car here. The cactus is absolutely beautiful. Very excited about it. Wonderful. Trying to avoid the potty over there. Here's where we are. There's the sign. Pay $5 to come into the car, and if you have trailers or more. Bus here. And there's another, this is the clubhouse area over here. The area, beautiful cactus, beautiful homes here, just gorgeous. Town on the side of the mountain up there. What is this place, Donna? What did you say this place saying? It's in October, about the 9th of October, Thursday, and here's a beautiful home. I think it's very outstanding. So I decided to take a picture of it. There's a glass front there. Very unusual. Beautiful. Reflects everything. It is lovely. There's the front door. And across from the street from my home is right here. It's right across the street. Here's the highway. Right here from my land. See, there's where it is. Right, lovely, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I'll tell you, mother bought this years and years ago, so it's mine because they gave it to me. So that's my picture. There's the road that leads to it, to our home. Just had a little lunch and he's sitting out there on his sweet porch. He's the apple picker, and there's a lot of them.
Too many.
Too many.
Okay,
And he keeps it on ice.
now don't you get my secrets. Get out of here.
Uncle Ben and Auntie Fran's darling home. They have 2 houses here, and they have this happy orchard that we're picking apples from. My word, it's some job for us. Auntie Fran is just surviving cancer, and she has her arm all wrapped up, and she's doing it anyway. They're precious. And Uncle Ben's about 78, but he's climbing the ladders and having fun picking the apples anyway. I don't know how much fun, but he's doing it anyway. Let's see if we can find him. Moving it over to a tree where it has some apples. This thing, getting this into a tree. Well, the apples are really up there. Not safe, he says. Okay. Clem. It's on his way up. There's apples on the ground. I'll be picking those up.
Got a little more sunshine than the others. That's all.
Okay, all right. A little more sunshine. The tree and sorts apples. Hello, Auntie Fran.
Hi. Yeah, I sit in the shade of the apple tree.
Why not?
Beautiful lady.
You bet. And let me see it.
Raise my hand.
Yeah, there's her hand. Lane. It's about the 10th of October, 1996. And there's the fall leaves. Across the street, we replaced our darling church that Uncle Georgie built, but it's bigger. and more functional. Trees are beautiful. Appreciate that we have them. Still picking them. Here's the orchard. There's an orchard on the other end. That's Uncle Ben's house. And there's an orchard way down there. It belonged to Grandfather Hanson. And it's just a beautiful place.
Couldn't resist it.
Oh, you know how to use this one? Look through there.
Okay.
Put your hand up through here.
Okay.
And there's the button you push for on and off.
Okay.
And this is tall and wide, and so you put your finger on that one for on and off.
Okay.
You see the little green button down there, that means it's on. Ooh.
Oops.
Wow.
Oh, looks like it's on.
Oh, is it green?
Yeah.
Well, I probably got a nice little picture of the ground. Okay.
Let me get the trees in there. There you go. Okay, what do you want to say? Hi? Hi. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It's still on. You have to
How do I shut it off?
push the red button with your first finger. No, it's still on. This thing. The forest. So beautiful. Tree. Beautiful. And their leaves are falling too. It's so gorgeous. I stopped at Drainage Water on the way to Payson in 1996. And here's the highway marker. We're on the way to Payson. Beautiful trees. Thank you, Yasmin. There's our cactus, there's Saguaro. Just gorgeous.